I was thinking of the banks this morning. Not a pleasant thought, really. But I was noticing that many of the banks recently seem to be going to the wall, don't they? They seem to be imploding like the pillars of Hercules, just collapsing all around us. And it makes us slightly nervous and worried about what's going to happen to our money. After all, your money's in the bank and you think it's going to be safe, and then of course you realise unless you've got a certain amount in there, that's only what the government will protect, and any more of that will just woof, disappear in a puff of smoke. So then you have to go and think, well, I better open up a building society or put it into an ISA or hide it under the bed. But yeah, you try getting your money out of the bank. You know what that's like. Oh, excuse me, I'd like to take some money out of my bank. Oh yes, sir. How much would you like to take? Well, I don't know, about a couple of grand, maybe 5, just, keep in a hidden place. Well, what are you going to spend it on? Well, I haven't really made up my mind. I just want to protect myself. Are you sure that nobody else has asked you to take the money out of the bank? No, I just want to take the money out of the bank. After all, no disrespect to you, Tiller, it is actually my money. Oh, I'm ever so sorry, sir. Didn't you read the terms and conditions? It's actually our money. Only we're allowed to let you have it back. And this is something that a lot of people don't seem to realise, that when you put the money in the bank, it automatically becomes their money. Now, we know that the banks can just magic money out of thin air when somebody wants a mortgage or wants to borrow some money, and they go, yes, how much would you like? Well, I'd like £10,000, please. Yes, let's have a look. We got £10,000? No, not really. Well, we'll just pretend we've got it. There we are, there's £10,000. And we know what kind of a scam all of that is. But when it's your money and you've worked hard for it, it's shoved in the bank, and then they won't let you have it, or you've got to go through the 3rd degree. What are you going to spend on the money? You must tell me. Sorry about the naff German accent there. But it is irritating, is it not? And of course, if everything's going to collapse and then the Bank of England goes, oh, don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, don't worry. We've got, of course, the digital pound, which all sounds very nice and fluffy. If anything, digital can actually be fluffy. But we know that this is just part of the central bank digital currency, a programmed money in which wherever you go at any time of the day and night, when you want to buy something, somebody else with headphones and big goggle glasses is going, I'm not sure we'll let him have that. Or maybe if you've been a very good boy and not said anything on social media that anybody else would disagree with, or you've not made a sort of trans comment accidentally, or you've misappropriated your pronouns. By the way, I don't use pronouns. I use verbs and adjectives and nouns. It seems to me to be a much better way. Anyway, if you've done all of those dodgy things, or you wanted to buy a nice lump of beef, or you want to go in your van and they don't want you to go, or you're trying to go on a flight and you've had too many flights this year, the central bank digital currencies will of course come down like a ton of bricks, pull the lever and almost chop your head off and say, no, sorry, you can't spend it. So nobody wants to go down that route. I don't know anybody who wants central bank digital currency, and yet the government, the kind, benevolent and very nice government that seems to not take the blind bit of notice what the public actually want and just has their own fixed agenda, is just pushing this down on everybody else instead of trying to develop another type of currency or money that would be quite useful. Now, it's interesting because my friend Brian got in touch and he sent me this little clipping from the local newspaper, which I thought was quite interesting. It says here, tradesmen's tokens to go on auction. Now, these tokens from the old tradesmen, which had all sorts of things on them, were produced in the 1790s. Now, I know that's a long time ago, and they're now being sold, but I just wanted to read this little bit out because I thought this was quite interesting, because in the 1790s, there was no official small copper change in the country. Copper, you see, had become very expensive. Britain was at war with France and the price of copper had risen, so there we go, causing a real problem for all the copper coins. They just disappeared. This caused tremendous hardship, of course, for these small merchants and the shopkeepers, as you can imagine. Any unofficial production of coin of the realm would be seen as forgery, as I'm sure it is today, and punishable then, and I don't know if this is still true, by hanging. Eventually, a Welsh mining company hit upon the idea of turning its copper straight into pennies and halfpennies and calling them tokens, redeemable in official coin, thus avoiding forgery. Now, I don't know how that shenanigans work, but it sounds like a great idea. And as they were the correct weight, no one bothered in the space of a year. Merchants in every town of England started issuing their own token pence. And so it talks about the various things that were going on the token pence and all that. There's a picture of Queen Elizabeth I on there. Anyway, the point is this solved the lack of small change in the 1790s and lasted for 10 years until the government got its act together after the war and issued the official copper coins. So it's interesting that they could manage to do it when there was a banking problem, or at least a minting problem with the resources of money back then. And I'm sure that that could happen again, because the banks do seem to be in a right old pickle. One of my correspondents got in touch with me and he said, my bank, and he did tell me, and I think it was the TSB, but I can't be sure. He said, for some reason, unknown reason, they blocked his account, just like that, so he couldn't access his money. And when you questioned it, they said, oh, well, it's our right, it's in our terms and conditions to be able to block your money. And you think to yourself, hang on a minute, what kind of a world is it where you can have my money, it no longer belongs to me, and then you, at the whim of your own decisions, be able to give it back to me? Anyway, he had correspondence going forwards and back, and they seemed to be the most unhelpful bank going. Of course, it may be just a specific case, but he wrote to me and there was yards and yards of this story of all their points, and they were just trying to fob him off at every road. Seemed very unfair, if you ask me. Anyway, however, I don't know the full details of it, but that is just one example. Other people have told me, for example, that their tap and go cards, you know, these sort of newfangled way of doing it, he could only use his tap and go 3 times, but if he had his code and his PIN number, he could use it. So it's all very complicated. But here's the thing that really irks me. For example, I earn a little bit of money from YouTube. You might earn money from your your employer. These days, your employer doesn't put your money in hard cash into a little brown envelope like they used to in the old days and hand it to you so that you can immediately spend your money however you damn well like. Whether that's going down to the pub, as many of the old workers from the mills used to do, and have a few beers on the way home, and giving a little bit of money to the old wife for housekeeping. These days, it's paid straight into the bank. Now, how does that not make you upset and angry? Because when your money gets paid straight into the bank from your employer or your clients, as in my case, YouTube being my client, and it goes straight into the bank, then you go, oh, okay, you paid in X amount of pounds, lovely, I'll have that out, please. Oh, what are you going to spend it on? Well, it's none of your bloody business. I have to put it into the bank because that's the only way they'll pay me. I want it out. Well, you can't have it. And it's this fight with the bank. I want my sodding money. Give it to me. No, you won't have it. It's ours. This is how it feels. I don't know whether you have the same feeling of it, of this push me, pull you. This is why not only is the government no longer fit for purpose with its tyrannical dictates of shoving down things that we don't want, 15-minute cities, net zero achievements, and all of this sort of nonsense, and the digital IDs, and oh my goodness, you know, later will be the chips going into our bodies, making us into robots and being superhuman. Not to my liking whatsoever. Not only are the government unfit for purpose, but it seems to me the banks and the whole money system is no longer fit for purpose. So as we come to this great rising, this whole new look at society, grassroots, grabbing things for themselves, taking back responsibility, I think money creation is going to be something. Now, it may have been seen to be forgery and illegal back in those days, but what's legal and what's lawful, in my opinion, are two different things. And if the government and the banks are going to penalise us left, right and centre and take advantage of us, the people of this country, it's time we turned our backs on them and started with something fresh. And I do know from people who've contacted me that there are a number of people who are working on a genuine new type of system, not just a digital thing like a Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, but something more visceral and real, based maybe on time bartering or things like that, or time coins or something like that. I have no idea, but we're going to be investigating these solutions in the future. Nobody wants central bank digital currency. None of my viewers have said, oh yes, roll me up for it. I want the government spying on every damn thing I do. So there we go. Now, if you're watching this just before the weekend, you may like to join me and a number of other people who are trying to help this world at the Better Way conference. And if you can't get there in Bath, because I think a number of the tickets have sold out, there is the virtual way of doing that. And you can do that by going to betterwayconference.org/VOBES, and you'll get 10% off on any of the sessions that you want to look in. Just bung in VOBES as a special discount code. Anyway, I will be there, so I hope that I will see you there. And after the weekend, there will be a bunch of videos, hopefully, based on what I've learned and discovered from all these amazing people. It's solutions now, all the way.